morning? Is it loud enough? Good, excellent. Thanks, John. I'm so impressed to see you all here. It's been an amazing competition so far. I think we're at a very interesting point in the competition, right bang in the middle of the second semi-final round. And you've got a real sense of what the second semi-final round can do for each of the competitors in terms of your perception of them following the first day, hearing Bach and Mozart, and now that you've heard half of them with this sort of complete, much more complete picture. I can imagine that you've all found it incredibly revealing. Some of the competitors sort of rise up in your estimations, some of them stay the same, some of them might disappoint you a little bit after their performances on Saturday. So I thought it would be interesting to talk a bit about why that happens. And really the purpose of the second round is to give you a much more complete picture. I mean, I touched on that yesterday in terms of the Paganini Caprices and the Jack Body Commission that all 18 people perform. Obviously that is a really fantastic leveller to hear every single person play exactly the same thing. But with the second round, the duo repertoire is particularly pertinent in terms of the opportunity for the competitors to show something completely different from what you will hear in any of the other works. The sonata repertoire, I suppose you could say it's a more serious type of repertoire. Obviously you've got the piano involved as well, but the works that they can select from, the likes of Brahms and Fauré and Franck, and you've got some works there that from the Romantic period. So if they want to show their sort of real lyrical skills, they're playing with sort of rich, round sounds, more simple kinds of phrases. They can pick those works to really show that. I mentioned on Saturday that Mozart, you could think of Mozart as replicating primary colours, and with the more romantic works, you could be thinking about a whole secondary range of colours, so much more sort of darkness and depth of tone. And so it is really important for the competitors to pick pieces that really show off their skills, but they also need to really be sure that when they pick a certain piece, that they're showing the sorts of things they should be showing with those pieces. So then they might decide to choose French impressionistic music, so that would be the Debussy or the Ravel. And those works, in particular the Debussy, we heard two of them yesterday. You can think of the sorts of colours that you might see in the likes of Monet paintings, French impressionists. So you're going to hear much more transparent sounds and delicate, but also some sort of streams of colour change and so on. And then there are quite a number of people who have chosen to play Prokofiev this year, and in particular they're all playing the second sonata. And so the sorts of things that they're going to show with that work, a really dramatic rhythm, sort of fiery characteristics, and it's a very exhilarating kind of piece. So with the mix of what they've chosen to play for their duo repertoire, they then need to match that with their choice for the showpiece. So it really is very important what they decide to play and how they pace it as well, what order they play it in, has a really strong impact in terms of what they bring to the stage in this round. So another thing that really stands out for me moving from the first round to the second round. I think it really shows actually how hard the first round is. You know, those 9 that we heard yesterday that can come on in a way they can be somewhat more relaxed and throw themselves into the music of this round. Whereas Bach and Mozart, you can really see how stripped back it is and really how challenging that particular round is. So I think it's fascinating to see how they evolve between the 2 rounds. I just want to mention we will have a bit more time for questions at the end of the session. So do think now if you've got any questions that you want to ask, that you will have time to do that. So one of the things that is also particularly interesting to notice is how they interact with the pianist, which is a very important part of chamber music. You will have noticed that one of the competitors is playing with a different pianist. Some people have been asking who that is. That is actually her mother. And they are allowed to bring their own pianists. Obviously, most people don't. And I think in the first or second competition there were a couple that brought their own, but there have not been many. It's a tricky one to know whether it advantages them. In a certain way it does, but I think the judges probably know what's going on and they can allow for any possible advantage or disadvantage. So in terms of what you might be able to notice with the interaction, the pianists themselves can certainly tell us a lot more about each competitor and whether it's comfortable or easy or difficult kind of relationship. But we do get to see a little bit of that, just in terms of how closely the violinist is paying attention to the pianist, even just physically, the energy that you might be able to sense between them. It's all pretty subtle, but of course if they're really playing together in a unified way, and I can absolutely say that the pianists, the 2 pianists that we have in this competition are wonderful collaborative pianists, so that the competitors couldn't have more sympathetic people to play with. So if there are issues going on stage, you can be sure that it's something to do with what the competitors are sort of bringing to it, if you know what I mean. So that rapport is really important, and that also goes over into most of the showpieces, because there are a few people who are playing solo works. The Isai works for solo violin. I think there are 3 people playing that for their showpiece, but the showpiece, of course, is another example of the collaborative relationship. And then that comes to the question of what the judges might be looking for in the showpieces. It's another opportunity for the competitors to really choose a work that complements their program, to really show another side of themselves. It's an opportunity for them to really show flair and expression as well. So like the Paganini, the showpieces are calling on the competitors to play incredibly difficult technical things. So the list of techniques that I listed off for the Paganini, they really are all in the showpieces as well. So lots of double stops with, using 2, 3 or 4 strings at once, difficult bow techniques, flying up and down the violin, and it's all very impressive. But that really is all completely meaningless if the competitors can't sort of get beyond the technique and really take us on a journey. I think that showpieces are quite often a bit like going to the circus, and you really want to be entertained by them. And one person who is an absolute master at those showpieces is Feng, and I'll never forget his performances of the many performances I've seen him do of those pieces, because he really brings poetry and emotion and heart to his playing in those pieces. So that's the sort of thing that I can imagine the judges are looking for. The technique by itself is not impressive. Really what makes it meaningful is if somebody's telling a story with the music that they're playing. So that sort of gives you an overview of what the players can bring to this second round. Obviously, at the end of today, they hopefully have shown the best sides of themselves as musicians and violinists. And one of the things that people keep on bumping into me and saying, so what are the judges looking for? And so obviously all of my talks have been trying to give you some insight into that, but it's a the $1 million question. What are they looking for? And I think the thing is that in a way each judge will be looking for something different. And I know for a fact, when I've been on the panel myself, it's been amazing when we've got into the voting room. You don't know who's voting for whom because it's all secret ballot, but you see the numbers of the competitors going up on the board that people are voting for, and it's astounding how varied it is, and people that I might not have, weren't my favourites, was someone else's top, and vice versa. And it's always been a really actually reinforcing process for me as a musician. It makes me realise that you need to, and the competitors need to really play the music the way they feel it and really present themselves as musicians, because some people will really respond to what they have to say, but others may not, but they need to be very true to their own expression. So, but each of the judges will definitely be looking for personality, and I think it's fantastic to look at this as the photos of the winners of this competition. So it's just the inside the front cover of the program book, because these people really exemplify exactly who the judges are looking for. I'm incredibly proud of each one of these winners, and how I would characterise them is that they are all mature musicians, sort of beyond and above their violinistic technique. Obviously you need to have all that technique to express the music, but they're all very different violinists, and I think it's fantastic that each year we give the prize to yet another sort of personality, and they're all going to have very different careers. They all have very natural charisma, and that's another question that people ask me, how much stage presence or what people wear, how they look, how much of a part of it is that in the judges' minds. Again, it'll depend on each judge, but without a doubt, stage presence comes into it. It's a live performance situation. People are looking at you, so it's very important. How you look, how you compose yourself the moment you walk on stage, and whether you give confidence, whether you come across as arrogant, or whether you come across as insecure, or in everything in between, and what sort of energy you are showing with your playing, with your music. So there's definitely a big factor that is in the mix. What other things? I would say that you're looking for people who have real passion in their playing, but eloquence and poetry. It's not all about being flash, and quite often people really respond to the fast playing, but it's the ability to really play the broad spectrum. Yes, you want that real excitement, but you want that incredible intimacy, and the ability to provide a whole range of colour, a whole range of dynamics. So I feel like I've just been talking at you. So I don't know if you have any questions at this point. Yes, one.
How is the choice made for which pianist works with which
Yes.
competitor?
Okay.
And how long do they have together
Yes.
to practice?
Good. Okay. So the question was how the pianists are allocated to each competitor, and before I tell you that, there's about 30 minutes worth of collaborative music in each competitor's program over the 2 days. so including the Mozart on Saturday, and then the duo and possibly the showpiece. It's generally about 30 minutes of music. They get to rehearse for 90 minutes with the pianist, their pianist, and that was either on Wednesday or Thursday last week. So it's not long. Pretty much they have the chance to run through everything, touch on a few things, maybe run a few things again. So it is really important, actually, it was one thing I was going to mention, it's incredibly important that the competitors know those works intimately and how they fit together with the pianist. And especially the duo, the sonata repertoire, because that repertoire is so integrated. The music between the violin part and the piano, they just have to be completely melding and responding to each other. So they need to know that repertoire inside out so that they can really respond to each other. But in terms of how they're divided up, Sarah pretty much looks, once they know all of the repertoire that the competitors are going to play, this would be soon after the 18 semi-finalists have been chosen in December. Sarah looks at the list of the repertoire, and they actually just try and divide it up in terms of lessening the doubling up load between the pianists. So they're trying to sort of manage their workload. If it's possible for one pianist to play for example, all the Franck, or one pianist to play all the Prokofievs, I think that's probably a bit tricky, because they sometimes they'll have different showpieces. So it's a bit of a nightmare to try and divide it up, but they do it in terms of repertoire. And then with the draw this year, they decided to draw alternating between the pianists, which has meant that the pianists have a break in between each one, which makes a lot of sense. Does that answer your question?
Difficult to do when they don't know the draw in advance.
Oh, but that's why this year they did the draw by they had a bucket of names with Sarah's contestants and a bucket with Deirdre's. This is the first year that they've done that, and I think it makes a lot of sense, because in the past years they've had sometimes 4 in a row. But in between this year, because they're alternating, that the pianist can spend a bit of time with the competitor backstage before they come on, so it's working much better. I saw a hand up the back. Yes?
I see the card, the judges each handed a card.
Oh.
Now, are there headings on that card, and what does it say?
Okay, was this yesterday, on Saturday? Was this on Saturday?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the Paganini Caprice selection. So it's been a very confusing or suspicious looking thing with the judges. Yeah, so each competitor prepared 2 Paganini Caprices of their choice from the 24 Paganini Caprices. And after they played on Saturday, the judges just each voted which one they wanted to hear the next day. So that was just that process of them deciding, and the competitor was told which one they would have to play in this round.
What would make them choose?
Oh well, I think partly variety, so the judges get to hear more things about. They would be considering the techniques and the 2 Paganini Caprices and potentially thinking, I want to hear that person play octaves, or I want to hear the upper staccato in this one. So, yes?
How do you choose the host families, and how early do they come to get over jet lag and things to be hosted?
So the question was how the host families are chosen. I'm actually not completely sure. Do you know, Michael?
Well, I'm not sure quite of the process, but they
Yeah.
arrive. They arrive
on Monday.
They arrive on early Monday, so they've got quite a bit of time to.
Yes, yeah. So Monday they have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. 4 days before they start competing. It'll be a tough thing though. Most of them have come from very much so the other side of the world. It's one of the things you have to learn to deal with as a performing musician. Yes?
What sponsors? What is sponsorship? I don't know what sponsors.
Sponsorship.
What are they involved? Do they pay airfares or something like that? Or what?
Do you know, Michael?
Sorry about what?
The sponsorship for each of the candidates. Do they pay for their...
That's a big
Staff.
Hmm?
Is that monetary stuff?
monetary sum that goes into the competition.
Not directly to the competitor.
No, right, yeah, but supports the activity of the competitor. Yeah?
You may have covered this,
Mhm.
but they could bring their own accompanist
Yes,
with their competitors.
yes they can. It doesn't happen very often, but the competitor this year, it's her mother playing with it. I was saying before, it could be seen to be an advantage, but I think the judges are able to allow for that in their assessment.
I just wanted to comment about the duos.
Duos?
From my observation, it seemed that there were a few competitors who were playing a solo band accompanied, and that there wasn't a great deal of rapport.
Right, so the comment is that with some of the duos, she's not seeing the rapport, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. That it's you want to sense, you want to see that, you want to hear it, you want to feel it, and it is quite a subtle thing to observe. But
And
you're right. That,
marks be taken off.
oh, absolutely. For the duo repertoire, that is one of the things that the judges will be looking for, and if they're not seeing that rapport, that will count against them. To how much will be up to each judge, and in the overall balance of all the aspects of the competition. Yes.
Who selects the list of sonatas from which the candidates choose their
Sure. So the repertoire for the whole competition these days is overseen by Dean Alden, who is one of the judges this year. He's what's his official name? Artistic director, coordinator. I should get that right. Artistic advisor. So he has done a lot of work. Each competition actually, there's some tweaking and changing and evolving of that program. For example, the chamber music round each time there's been slightly different works. But yeah, it's been much the same. Initially when we started, they were playing Mozart piano sonatas and so duo instead of Mozart concerto. That was a change. It made the third competition. But it's quite standard repertoire in terms of competition requirement around the world. So there's an element of making sure that we line up with other competitions. But the chamber music round is quite a unique one in this competition, and I think actually all of the winners have certainly displayed their real skill in chamber music, and it is one of the personally I think one of the wonderful parts of this competition that we do take that skill really seriously. Hence why the duo repertoire is so important at this round, because it's their only chance to really show how sensitive they are to putting that music together. Actually, there's one at the back. Yes?
Explain perhaps some of the criteria that they use in selecting the judges.
So criteria in selecting the judges, and Rhoda would be the best person to answer that, but I think I can. There's a very conscious effort to find people who really represent the many different schools of playing in the world from different countries. Also to have men and women on the panel. And I would say very much so the judges come recommended to us through our relationships in terms of finding people who are lovely people. A lot of competitions have the reputation for being quite political, and this competition is extremely keen and actively works towards making this competition not a political one. And so a lot of that has to do with the judges. So that we're bringing people who have a wonderful reputation as professional violinists and teachers. And actually their role as teachers is also very relevant, because that helps to spread the word about the competition as well. Often there are students of the judges in the competition, and so that that they are active advocates for the competition as well. Yes?
Does whether the contestant face have any impact on?
So he's asking about how they stand on stage and whether it has an impact on the sound.
Are they supposed to? Is there nothing saying that they should face the audience?
No, it's complete, how they portray themselves, how they carry themselves is completely up to them. There is, I mean, sound-wise, the instrument is quite directional, so if you stand with your violin facing that way, the sound's going to be heading that way. If I stand with my body straight on, my violin's actually going to be playing that way. So really you want to be standing in such a way that your violin is facing straight out. You might notice that as they move around, that the sound moves around. So it's one of the things that they should be considering. In a space like this, it's not so clear, but that would have a big impact when they're playing with the piano, whether their sound is projecting as well as pianists or in the same direction.
Roughly how many international violin competitions in the world would there be in any one year?
The answer to that. How many international violin competitions in 1 year? Do you know, Melissa? A handful. Because they don't all happen every year. Yeah, I would be guessing, but it would be a small number.
Did you say
Handful.
Italy? Oh.
Yeah, no, of this kind of standard, there are not many. There are probably 6 or 7 competitions that we would be comparing ourselves to, and that they don't all happen every year. We're going to have to wrap up very soon, but yes, one more. Oh, so the competitors, yes, they do get feedback from the judges if they want it. They don't get written reports, but they have the opportunity to speak with the judges. And yeah, most competitors take that opportunity to get feedback on their performances. It's a wonderful chance. Also, there are master classes that happen in Auckland, and there are other centres as well. But when everybody transfers up to Auckland after this round, I presume this year that the competitors that haven't progressed into the next round are able to play in the masterclasses with some of the judges. So it's also another chance that they can get some really wonderful tuition and feedback from the judges. I mean, we've obviously got an incredible resource with the judges here, so we try and make sure that the competitors get as much as possible from them. Maybe one more minute. John hasn't come and passed one yet. Okay, I probably should wrap it up. So thanks very much. I hope you enjoyed the completion of this incredible experience.
Thank you.
And yeah, that's been great.